Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep into the world of randonneering today.
Sounds exciting.
Now, we know you folks already get the basics.
Right.
So we're skipping that intro stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to jump right into what makes randonneering so special.
Okay, love it.
It's way more than just biking long distances.
Oh, yeah.
It's a real journey, like self-discovery, resilience, and all those unexpected moments.
You got it. That's a perfect way to put it. It's amazing, right? How randonneering mixes endurance and self-sufficiency. It's like tapping into this basic human desire to explore and push our limits.
Absolutely. And that's what we're unpacking today. We'll start by going way back to those quirky French origins.
All right.
Then we'll hit the legendary Paris-Brest Paris.
Classic.
We'll dig into the unique challenges and rewards. And we'll even bust that myth that it's all about racing.
Can't wait.
So, ready to get started?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, randonneering popped up in France in the late 19th century. But get this. It wasn't even about cycling at first.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it all started with hiking.
Hiking, huh?
I know, right? Totally unexpected.
Oh.
Back then, people were organizing these massive walks, just pushing themselves, for the enjoyment and the challenge.
Wow. So that was a time of true exploration, pushing those boundaries, both physically and geographically,
Exactly. So how did this whole adventure thing shift from hiking to cycling?
Well, think about it. The bicycle was taking off in the early 20th century. People saw this new way to explore, to cover way more ground. They got that same feeling of freedom and challenge they love from hiking, but with bikes.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And that brings us to the big one, the legendary Paris-Brest Paris.
Ah, PBP. Gotta love it.
It's a 1,200-kilometer cycling event, and get this, it's been going on every 4 years since 1891.
Wow.
It's even older than the Tour de France.
That's incredible. PBP is way more than just a cycling event. It's like a pilgrimage for randonneurs. Can you picture it? Cycling between Paris and Brest and back, all within a strict time limit. Talk about endurance.
And strategy, and knowing yourself. It's got to be a whole different level.
Oh, absolutely. It goes way beyond any normal race.
And speaking of racing, let's talk about the big myth, right? Randonneering isn't about being the fastest, is it?
Nope, not at all. It's all about finishing the distance within the time limit. The focus is on the journey itself, the personal challenge, the satisfaction of pushing your limits, not winning.
Wait, if it's not about speed, what about support crews and all that?
That's where things get really interesting. Randonneering is all about being self-sufficient. You navigate yourself, carry all your stuff, deal with whatever comes up on the road.
Wow.
It's like a solo adventure, but on two wheels.
So you're like a one-person team. You handle everything. Route finding, repairs, all of it. That adds a whole new layer to the challenge.
Exactly. There's this huge emphasis on individual responsibility. Unlike traditional races, there are checkpoints, we call them control points. But you're expected to manage your own pace, your food, everything, and handle any surprises along the way.
Okay, I'm getting that self-sufficiency thing.
Yeah.
But let's talk distances for a sec. We know PBP is a massive 1,200 kilometers. Are all randonneering events that long?
Oh, no, definitely not. There's a whole range of distances, something for everyone, no matter your experience or ambition. You can find events starting from a pretty doable 200 kilometers.
Okay.
And then they go all the way up to the epic
Okay, great.
and even beyond. Some extreme events are thousands of kilometers.
Thousands. Wow, that's mind-blowing. Okay, so say you sign up for one of these events. You're out there on the open road, all on your own. How do you even find your way? Just follow everyone else.
That's a great question. And it brings us to another unique thing about randonneering, navigation.
All right.
Riders don't just follow a leader or a marked course. You have to navigate yourself.
Seriously.
Using maps, cue sheets, or those GPS devices.
Wow.
It's a vital part of the experience, especially when you're going into those remote areas.
So it's not just about physical endurance, it's about mental focus and navigational skills too.
You got it. That adds a whole other level of challenge and accomplishment.
Absolutely. Now this is where that Brevet card system comes in, right?
You know it.
It's kind of mysterious, to be honest. Could you break it down for us?
Sure. Think of the Brevet card as your passport to your randonneering journey.
Okay.
At each control point, you get a stamp on your card, proof that you were there. It's a record of what you've achieved, and it's a really cool part of randonneering tradition. But there's more to it than that.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, it reinforces this honor system, this trust thing that's at the heart of randonneering.
Yeah.
You're basically saying, hey, I did this, I completed the route the right way. It's a beautiful mix of self-reliance and community responsibility.
I love that. It's like you're part of this self-governing community. You're all bound by this shared code of ethics.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked about the granddaddy of events, the PvP. What other types of events are out there?
Right, well, the most common one is the Brevet Randonner. We call it BR for short.
Yeah.
It's got standardized distances and time frames. Think of it as the basic building block of randonneering, the starting point for most riders.
Makes sense. And then there are those permanent rides. Right.
Yeah.
What are those all about? They sound pretty interesting.
Permanent rides give you a little more freedom. They follow the same rules as the official Brevets, but you can do them whenever you want, perfect for people who like to set their own schedule, or if you want to experience a certain route outside of a big event.
So it's like a choose-your-own-adventure version of randonneering.
Exactly.
I like that. We can't forget the more adventurous side of this sport, though. We've mainly been talking road cycling. But what about gravel and mountain bike randonneering?
Oh yeah, those are definitely getting more popular.
I bet.
It's a natural progression, isn't it? Taking that spirit of self-sufficiency and exploration off the paved roads and onto tougher terrain.
For sure. Okay, so we've covered the history, the distances, navigation, the different types of events. But what really defines the spirit of randonneering? What sets it apart from other endurance sports?
You nailed it when you said spirit. Randonneering is way more than just being tough physically and mentally. It's about supporting each other, helping each other out. It's about camaraderie, not competition. It's about riders sharing advice, becoming friends, all through those shared challenges.
Okay, but isn't that kind of a contradiction? We were just talking about self-sufficiency. How does that work with community support?
That's a great point. And it really gets to what makes randonneering so unique. It's this delicate balance. You're relying on your own skills, your own resources, but you're also part of this amazingly supportive community. People are always ready to lend a hand.
So it's like combining that rugged individualism with a deep sense of connection.
You got it. And that personal challenge you mentioned earlier, that's key. Randonneering is all about pushing yourself, finding out what you're truly capable of, both physically and mentally.
All this talk about fatigue, self-sufficiency, potential breakdown. Sounds pretty daunting, honestly.
Yeah.
Why would anyone want to put themselves through that?
That's where the rewards come in. Finishing a challenging randonneering event. It shows you how resilient you are. It's about overcoming those obstacles, inside and out. You come out of the experience stronger, more confident. And don't forget the feeling of accomplishment, the pure joy of pushing yourself and finding strength you never knew you had.
Plus, think of all the scenery you see along the way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're on these amazing routes, off the beaten path. You'll go through charming villages, beautiful countryside, breathtaking landscapes, stuff you totally miss in a car or in a regular bike race. It's a way to reconnect with nature, to find peace in the rhythm of pedaling, to appreciate the simple joys of exploring.
I love that. All right, so we know what drives the randonneering spirit.
Yeah.
But what about the practical side? What kind of gear, what kind of preparation are we talking about here?
Well, the bike itself is crucial.
Right.
And there's no one-size-fits-all answer there. The choice really depends on what events you're looking at and, of course, what you personally like. But let's look at some popular options, starting with that classic road bike. What do you think about that choice?
Yeah, road bikes are all about speed and efficiency, right? Which makes sense for long distances. But wouldn't all that speed mean you're sacrificing comfort? Especially for events that last for days.
Yeah.
You know, where you're on the bike for hours and hours.
That's a really good point. And that's where choosing the right bike gets tricky. Some road bikes are made for endurance, sure, but they might not be the most comfortable for randonneering. It's a unique kind of riding.
So if a regular road bike isn't always the best, what other options are out there?
While if comfort and carrying capacity are your priorities, a touring bike is often the way to go.
Huh.
They usually have a more relaxed geometry, wider tires for stability, and they have all those mounting points for racks and bags. Those are essential.
So you're basically setting yourself up for a self-supported bike expedition, like a mobile base camp on two wheels. That's cool. But let's get specific. What should someone look for in a touring bike if they're planning on doing randonneering?
Good question. When you're picking out a touring bike for this, you gotta think about the frame material, the gearing, the brakes. For example, a steel frame is known for being super durable and comfortable. And comfort is key for those long rides. Then there's gearing, especially important if you're gonna be riding in hilly areas. You want a wide range of gear so you can handle those climbs without totally wearing yourself out.
Right. And what about brakes? Are there certain types that are better for randonneering?
Absolutely. Disc brakes have become super popular in randonneering, and for good reason. They give you much better stopping power, no matter the weather. And that's essential when you're riding long distances. You never know what kind of weather you'll run into.
Yeah, reliability and safety are so important in these events. Okay, let's move on to another bike that seems to be getting a lot of attention in randonneering. The gravel bike. What's the draw there?
Gravel bikes are a cool development in cycling. They're perfect for people who want to go beyond the pavement. You get this mix of speed, agility, and toughness. So you can explore all kinds of terrain.
So they're kind of like a bridge between road riding and off-roading.
You got it.
What makes gravel bikes different?
One big thing is tire clearance. Gravel bikes can fit those wider tires with the knobby tread. That gives you way better grip and stability on loose surfaces, like gravel, dirt, even some light trails.
So they're more versatile than a traditional road bike, but they're still efficient enough for those long hauls.
Exactly. And they often come with disc brakes and that more relaxed geometry we talked about, which makes them a great choice for long days on the bike on all kinds of terrain.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered a few bike options. Let's say you've got your bike picked out. What other gear is essential?
Navigation is number one.
Right.
Whether you go old school with maps and cue sheets or you prefer GPS, you gotta have a reliable way to find your way. No question about it.
Especially when you're off the beaten track, relying on your own skills to get around. But what about those rides that go on into the night?
Good point. Lighting is crucial if you're gonna be riding at night. A strong front light will not only light up the road for you, it'll make you visible to others. And don't forget our rear safety light, super important for letting cars and trucks know you're there, especially from behind.
Safety first, especially when you're sharing the road with traffic, sometimes in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly. And while we're talking about visibility and safety, clothing is a big one too.
Oh yeah.
Wearing bright colors and reflective gear makes a huge difference. Drivers can see you so much easier, especially in those low light conditions like early morning or dusk.
And comfort's a big deal in randonneering. What kind of clothing do you recommend?
You'll want to layer up.
Right.
Be ready for all kinds of weather.
Oh.
Rain gear to keep you dry, of course. And most importantly, comfortable cycling shorts. The kind that can handle hours and hours in the saddle. Padding, moisture-wicking fabrics, and a good fit are key. They'll help prevent chafing and discomfort.
Comfort is key. Nothing ruins a long ride faster than blisters and chafing. And while we're on the topic of things that can ruin a ride, let's talk mechanical issues. What kind of tools and spare parts should riders bring along?
A well-stocked saddlebag is your best friend out there.
Definitely.
Pack things like a mini pump, tire levers, spare tubes, a basic multi-tool that'll let you make adjustments and fix minor problems.
So it's all about being prepared for anything, right? You don't want a flat tire to end your whole adventure.
Exactly. And don't forget about fuel. You need to pack enough food and water to keep your energy levels up the whole time.
Okay, so snacks, energy gels, electrolyte drinks, anything that'll keep you going. But let's shift gears for a minute and talk about the mental side of randonneering. We've talked about the tough stuff, but what about the good stuff? What keeps people coming back for more?
For a lot of people, it's that sense of accomplishment. Pushing past what you thought you could do, realizing what you're truly capable of. Finishing a tough randonneering event, it's a real testament to your resilience, both physically and mentally.
It's like proving to yourself that you're stronger than you thought.
You got it. There's this deep satisfaction that comes from conquering those distances, from pushing through the fatigue and the self-doubt. And you come out of it stronger, more confident.
It's all about stepping outside your comfort zone, embracing the unknown, and realizing you can handle way more than you thought possible.
Exactly. And it's not just about those internal challenges. Randonneering takes you through some amazing landscapes. It's an adventure, you're exploring. It's hard to find that anywhere else.
You're experiencing the world in a totally unique way, at your own pace, often on roads that most people never see. It's a chance to slow down, to really take in the beauty around you, to connect with nature in a way that few other activities can offer.
And don't forget about the community aspect. Randonneering has this amazingly supportive and welcoming vibe.
It does.
You'll meet riders of all ages, all skill levels. Everyone's connected by this passion for adventure, and everyone's willing to help each other out.
It's not uncommon to see people sharing food, helping with repairs, offering encouragement. There's this feeling of camaraderie that goes beyond any competition.
You got it. That's what makes randonneering so special. It's about the shared experience, the support you get from each other, the bonds you form through these challenging journeys. But I know what some people might be thinking. This all sounds super tough, maybe even a little scary. Is randonneering really for me?
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a question a lot of people have when they first hear about randonneering. It does sound a bit intimidating, right? All that talk about endurance and self-sufficiency and the potential challenges.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely not for everyone. You got to have a certain level of fitness, and you got to be willing to step outside that comfort zone. And most importantly, you got to love adventure. But if that sounds like you, well, then it might be the perfect thing.
So let's say someone's curious and they want to try it out. What's the best way to get started?
One of the great things about randonneering is that it's really accessible. You don't have to be a pro to give it a shot. There are events for every level, from shorter distances to those more challenging ones.
But where do you even find these events? I can't imagine just searching for bike races online is going to cut it.
You're right about that. The Randonneurs USA website is a great place to start. They've got a whole calendar of events all over the country, plus info on local clubs and resources.
Ah, local clubs. That's got to be a treasure trove of info and support for someone new to randonneering.
Absolutely. Local clubs are a fantastic way to connect with people who've been doing it for a while. Get some insider tips, learn the ropes. They often organize group rides and training sessions.
That sounds fun.
It's a great way to build confidence and make some friends.
Yeah, it's like having a built-in support system right there in your community.
Exactly. And let's be honest, training and riding is way more fun when you've got other people to share it with. It goes back to that community spirit, right? It's such a big part of randonneering.
Okay, so you found an event that looks interesting. What are some things you should think about before you sign up?
The most important thing is to be realistic about your fitness level. Take a good look at the delvins, the time commitment. Make sure it matches what you're capable of. It's always better to start with a shorter event if you're new to this, and then gradually work your way up.
Don't bite off more than you can chew.
Right, exactly. There's no shame in starting small. It's all about enjoying the process and setting yourself up for success. And speaking of success, remember, mental preparation is just as important as physical training.
Right, we've talked about the mental challenges, the fatigue, the potential for self-doubt, the need to stay focused for hours on end. How can someone prepare for that?
Visualization can be really powerful. Just imagine yourself completing the event, overcoming obstacles, enjoying the whole experience. Create that mental picture of success.
So it's like a mental rehearsal for the real thing. You're getting yourself ready for those ups and downs.
Exactly. And don't forget about positive self-talk. Encourage yourself. Remind yourself why you're doing this. Focus on the rewards waiting for you at the finish line.
It's about developing that inner strength, that ability to push through discomfort and keep your eye on the goal. Speaking of goals, let's talk about the rewards that go beyond just finishing the event. We've talked about the physical and mental challenges, but what about that personal growth, those transformative experiences that often come with randonneering? What makes it more than just another endurance sport?
That's a great point. Randonneering has this way of pushing you out of your comfort zone, testing your limits, showing you strengths you never knew you had. It's a journey of self-discovery, not just on the bike, but also within yourself.
It's like you're peeling back layers,
Yeah.
right? Discovering this resilience and determination you didn't even know was there.
Exactly. It's all about discovering what you're truly capable of, physically and mentally. And it often makes people appreciate the simple things more. The beauty of nature, the power of human connection.
It's about getting away from all those distractions of modern life and connecting with something deeper, experiencing the world in this raw, unfiltered way, relying on your own strength and sometimes the kindness of strangers.
That's beautifully put. And those are the rewards that stick with you long after you cross that finish line. They become part of your life, they change your perspective. They give you the confidence to face new challenges.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into randonneering, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from it?
I hope they realize that randonneering is so much more than just a type of cycling. It's a mindset, a way of life. It's an invitation to explore the world at your own pace and to discover that incredible resilience you have inside.
It's about embracing the challenge, enjoying the journey, and joining a community that shares that passion for adventure. And who knows, maybe this deep dive has sparked something in you, that urge to explore this world for yourself.
Maybe you'll find a love for long-distance cycling you never knew you had.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you with this. If you could create your own randonneering adventure, where would it take you? What challenges would you take on? What amazing scenery would you want to see along the way?
Let your imagination go wild. The open road is waiting.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of randonneering. Until next time, keep exploring.